Good morning. I don't even know what this is. Is it like a note to self? Am I going to show other people? Is it a rough draft of something? Let's call it a rough draft. I've been told a couple of times I need to be on a TED Talk or something, like some kind of compliment, like cool. Maybe people want to hear me. Maybe a TED Talk would be cool. I just watched some really cool TED Talks that I thought were helpful to me. So yeah, maybe I could be helpful to someone else. That's the idea anyway. But what do I talk about? What's so important? It's on TED stands for Technology, Education, and Design, of course. So I'm down with those things. I've been thinking, very meta lately, so I'm kind of, thinking about tools to make tools, education about education, design of design, blah, brain exploding. I've also been talking about pain a lot lately. I guess I'm trying to find the common thread, the source. What's the source? Let's get down to the source. What's the source of the problem? Where's the splinter? So we can pull it the fuck out, right? And my favorite TED Talks all are inspirational, and they're funny. They're sobering, yet they're hopeful. That's kind of, I like those things. Usually really simple call to action so that people can understand what you're trying to say and feel like empowered to go do stuff. And I'm all about empowering right now, empowering validation and love, which are things that we treat like they're really scarce and like really valuable commodities that shouldn't be given away. It's very precious. Don't validate anybody. We make fun of each other on Twitter and Facebook people on Twitter make fun of everybody for seeking validation. And it's just kind of like, it's almost a cliche joke at this point. But honestly, what's so wrong with validation? There are a lot of people seeking validation, right? We know that being thirsty and fishing for compliments, definitely bad. We've decided that. And, the people that are most vocally, looking for those things are usually full of themselves in the first place. Like, they don't need any validation. They've seriously validated themselves too much. Or have they? Are they seeking to fulfill something that they can't give themselves, or they haven't given themselves? I argue that you can. I argue that anybody can if they're healthy and they're given the right start. You can damage people, and life can damage you. But under normal circumstances, 95% of us have the capacity to, to validate ourselves and to feel okay with that. Once we learn how. Not having an example to follow, man, that's tough. Now we know that mirror neurons actually allow us to, fire synapses by watching somebody else do something. That's incredible. That means actually having someone sit down and do something in front of you can give your brain a pathway to doing that thing, even if you haven't picked it up yet. Watching someone play a guitar and having those mirror neurons activating can actually start to prime the pathway for your own brain to learn these things. Now, you still have to pick up the guitar and get these fingers firing, right? These little connections need to be part of it, and the things that you learn about notes, that's all part of it, or basketball or anything else. Now, there's some things that we don't know yet. I would like science to be looking at, do these mirror neurons fire only in the presence of a person doing it? How does video affect us? We know that children learn words better from a caregiver than from watching Sesame Street all day long or Baby Einstein, right? Baby Einstein, they had to give a bunch of money back because it just wasn't working. And if you put your kids on a steady diet of smart TV, they're not that smart. Physical interaction with a person, however, gets them learning. And that attention goes, and you make this connection with a child through their eyes, or any person when you're teaching them something. But babies, they suck it right up. They're little sponges, we know that. But is TV like some kind of artificial sweetener for the brain? Is it telling you you're full when you haven't got any nutrition? Is it firing part of your brain but not the important learning parts? We don't know. We can look at that. Do we have the tools to look at that? I think we have the tools to look at that now. All of the imaging that we've done with neuroscience and the projects that are happening right now, the research projects that started in the last couple of years that we haven't even, finished collecting data on, that we won't hear the, we won't hear the results for another couple of years. It's going to be incredible. There are seeds planted right now that are working their way towards social consciousness that are not above surface yet. And yet someone planted them. There's researchers all around the country. These seeds are planted. We will see what comes of it. What are we going to do with that? Okay, back to my point about validation. We're all looking for something, right? We just had yet another school shooting, and people they're trying not to validate the killer, and some people are saying, making fun of this person's appearance, and other people are saying, maybe this is why he was a shooter. I mean, not to completely take the blame off of the shooter, but maybe society could do a better job. I don't know. Is he looking for validation? We certainly can't give it to him for this kind of behavior. You can't reward bad behavior, or it will keep happening. But how do we prevent it? What was this person looking for? What are the thousands of suicides every day? What are these people looking for that they decide that they're going to go with the permanent solution to this temporary problem? It doesn't feel temporary. It feels like a hopeless situation that we'll never crawl out of. And I'm not blaming anybody for going the suicide route. I'm not going to blame the victims on this. Most of us are just trying to hold on despite no real evidence that things are changing right now. Those seeds have not popped up. And to take that metaphor a little further, people are actively trying to stamp it out and pour poison in our garden. I mean, it's a literal reality when you think about the runoff and the pesticides from our agriculture that are literally poisoning our drinking water and the land. And it's all connected. It's all connected. Suicide is a big problem. Suicidal people, or people that are ready to be done with their lives, will do crazy things like cause a bunch of violence, shoot things, try to blow things up, maybe even try to do a slow kind of self-destruction. Isn't that what we're seeing, a whole part of our political system doing? It's like political suicide. They're getting so violent. If you saw the GOP as a person with a mental illness right now, you'd be like, this is a bipolar patient on a bender. They're on an upswing, and they're going to just, be racing around in that hot rod car until they wrap it around a tree. That's how some people go when they're on a manic phase. And that just, if you can start to look at groups of people, not that you can use, a regular diagnosis like you would an individual, but could this be a helpful tool? Can we develop philosophical tools to help us understand what's going on. Do groups of people act in a specific way that can be studied the way an individual can be studied? And what can we learn about ourselves? We are social creatures. No human or two humans exist in isolation. We're not just pairing off and disappearing to our 5 acres in the woods and defending the territory. We're social creatures. We're much more like ants or termites or bees. We've built all of these little hives and buzz around. We're social creatures. And what does our hive act like? There's different kinds of ants too. There's red ants and black ants, and sometimes they have wars. What can this tell us about our own nature? Of course, we're much more complex than that. We're emotional and thinking creatures. Perhaps an ant has an ant-sized amount of emotion that goes with it, but we're like messed up in the drama department, right? Like, we're creating so much drama that we might destroy the entire planet and take out all the animals, that can't survive after whatever we do to it. It's pretty suicidal as a species. Like, part of the human population is being suicidal as a colony right now. Like, as a hive, this doesn't make any sense. We don't have very many tools for looking at societies. We have had people in the past that have looked at democracies and how long they last. And the United States has outlived its life expectancy as democracy. That's pretty clear. We don't talk about that nowadays as much. Well, I mean, maybe the common people never did in the first place. Maybe this is unique, that we have all of this information at our fingertips, and that we regular ass people have the education and the means of communication to share with millions of people if they choose to look. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible, and we're acting like it's no big deal, I'm not sure. There's definitely a message there. We know that gratitude and being thankful for what you have is a key component to happiness, right? But also being part of a group. This seems to be a prerequisite for feeling loved and accepted. And yet, when you're talking about a depressed person or a suicidal person, they don't value themselves enough to care about themselves or love themselves in the first place. So now we're teasing down to the main thread here. I've heard so many people in this country say it's hopeless. I am so ashamed of my fellow citizens. I can't believe the society we're living in. And then the world hates us too, right? We're not just the depressed loner kid that hates ourselves. The rest of the world hates us right now too, with good reason, right? Because if you're that depressed loner kid and you think, this game is kind of rigged and this is bullshit and, there's really no way out of it, you're probably going to act like a dick, right? I used to be a raging bitch because fuck it, didn't matter. I didn't even want to be fucking alive, So fuck you. I didn't ask to play in this game. I didn't ask to be brought here, with some fucking crazy drug abusing bitch ass parents that fucked everything up. I didn't fucking ask for that. So fuck you, math teacher. I actually love math, but it's this attitude that we fuck me, well fuck you too. Okay, and we're trapped in this. Right now, if the world was a classroom and we were dealing with school shootings, the rest of the world is looking around at America going, that kid's gonna bring a nuke to class one day. Just fucking, look at him. He's fucking acting crazy. We can all see it. We can can all see it, you know. People, the one, everybody inside America, you are either the one that's like, you know, the jock, you know, of the class, like, yeah, don't worry about that kid. He's just a loser. He won't have the balls to pull the trigger anyway. Fuck you, loser kid. You know, not helping. Pretending like there's not a problem and that you're just gonna kick people around anyway. Not helping. You know? And then there's the overeducated snobby kid who is obviously intellectually superior to the crazy kid, and he could tell him all about what his fucking problems are. And yeah, sorry, you're not helping either. So we've got these people in our society, the crazed lone gun shooter types, and poisoning our society to the point where our whole society is acting like the crazed lone gun shooter of the world. How do we help that kid? Because the victims deserve our attention right now, but we want to prevent future victims, right? We want to prevent these kids and grown-ass men from snapping in the first place and acting out to the point where they feel like it doesn't matter anyway, so fuck you. And someone that's hopeless and is not thankful for what they have and is outside of society and not part of a larger group, they are already going to be at a disadvantage in the neurotransmitter department because of how they feel. And this starts at home. This starts at home. This starts with the parents or whoever is raising the child and their immediate community. A big portion of why it's coming out at school is because we've decided as a society that it's teachers' job to raise our kids. Not as much as when I was growing up. I was going to school in the 90s. At some point in the late 90s, 2000s, parents started to blame teachers for shit that normally would have been blamed on parents. And they started taking their whiny bitch ass kids' side when the teacher's putting up with a bunch of bullshit. Now, we should know better than to just listen to one side of the story. Because if you only listen to one side of the story and it's your whiny bratty little kid, they're gonna say, everybody just is such a jerk to me, you know, I'm just so mean, and the teacher is always asking questions and, you know, making fun of me on purpose, and, you know, they'll have a sob story. We have this whole victim identity thing, you know, learned it from the parents. You know, the parents are some kind of victim, and suddenly their kid is a super victim. So we have these victims that go and complain to their victim parents. The parents obviously can't blame themselves, so they blame the teacher, right? They don't stop to think that maybe their kid was throwing shit in class, and that's why their teacher is picking on them and trying to set them straight. Maybe that kid is kicking other kids under the table. I've known teachers. You just go ask them for examples of kids being outright dicks in their class and how sometimes their parents will come and bitch you the fuck out. And there are a lot of situations in the rural school district that I'm referring to where my friend's mom was a teacher. The principal was not on her side. Principal wasn't really that sympathetic to her. He had to listen to the parents. He just wanted it done with. And this sloughing off of responsibility from parents onto teachers is hit a ridiculous crescendo. Now they're not only supposed to be responsible for all of the education, socialization, and manners of your children, they have to be responsible for their mental health, reporting them if they might be homicidal, and they might need to shoot that kid if they come in with a gun. Since when has this been a job for teachers? Where is family responsibility here? Right? This victim mentality is very poisonous. So it kind of relates back to agency and a sense of self and what you can do and what's your responsibility. We have many people in our society that believe that this is not their responsibility. They're hopeless for the society, and they don't value themselves very much or value the fact that they can have an input or an impact. They possibly are downplaying it. Well, what could I do? I could just make it worse. So how do we fix that? There are a lot of problems that are all connected to these things. Why would you eat healthier if you don't care about yourself? Or if you think it's hopeless, if you think you're going to die early anyway, why would you ever take care of yourself? Why would you quit smoking? Why would you put the gun down? You know? We have to work on people's feelings of self if we want to affect our society's sense of self. Number one, take responsibility. Everybody has a personal responsibility. That's not to say you're taking the blame. Okay? Blame aside, even if it's someone else's fault, there's personal responsibility. I am responsible for my actions. Okay? If someone hits me, I don't have to go hit another person. Oh, well, I was abused as a kid, therefore I follow this pattern of abusing. You know? It happens that things are done to you and you learn a pattern that is abusive, but you have the ability and the responsibility to stop it and to not copy that behavior. And it sucks. It sucks. It's a mess, you know? We inherited a world that is full of racial tension and inequality and death, and an environment that's dying and is unstable, and a political climate that is outright poisoned, right? It really sucks to think that it's our job to clean this up. But it is. Is it our fault? No. We didn't make the mess. But that's pretty clear. It's pretty fucking clear. But someone's got to clean this fucking mess up. Right? And if we don't clean it up, our kids are going to have to clean it up. And they're going to blame us for not doing our part. Okay? Right now, I blame my parents' generation for not doing their part. They, you know, the hippies that were trying to get attention and draw some public support for this. If you can go back and I can see a picture of you protesting or doing some kind of acting out, hey, you're forgiven. You did your part. You did more than your part while a lot of people were trying to shove you down and say whatever, you know. But that's the majority of people in the baby boomer generation. You just, you know, you just swallowed the bait and the hook. Is it your fault? No, it was baited really well, and the hook is really fucking hard to get out. But it's your responsibility. You know? And it will only get worse until we fix it. Right? So we have to take responsibility. It's a hard one. It's a hard one. How do we help people take responsibility? We have to make them feel like they're part of a team working together, part of a society. Someone's got your back. If you're trying, even if it's small steps forward, as long as you're making a little contribution, you should be validated. You should be thanked. You should be embraced by your community. And we have this tendency to downplay any kind of good and overreact to bad. That's just chemicals in our brain, and that's our animal instinct. We're going to do that. We have to make a conscious effort as humans to shift the balance. Okay? You know, maybe it's a 5-to-1 ratio. It's really hard. We overreact to negative stimulus. Just we need to focus on more positive stimulus. I'm not saying ignore the bad. We need to be aware of that and take responsibility for that. But if someone's making a positive contribution, that needs to be encouraged. That if you give somebody validation for that, if you appreciate their efforts, if you say, you know what, every little bit helps, that person is going to feel a sense of belonging. They're going to feel a sense of hope. They're going to feel appreciated. It's going to boost their oxytocin levels. It's going to lower their cortisol levels. It's going to lower their blood pressure. It's, it's going to start helping with, all of the things, stress and anxiety and depression that are alleviated when you feel part of a strong social fabric. We know that in communities with a strong sense of community, people live longer. The super agers that they were studying, see how do you live past 100 in a community consistently. Along with their healthy diet, they had community, and it didn't matter if it was just singing and dancing and getting together, these people had each other's backs. We have a whole society where you literally can't even go to school, or one of your group might go insane and kill you. And it is part of your peer group. When I was going to high school and the first 2 shootings happened, I'd never heard of a school shooting. They didn't really exist before that. I was in school. It's so embarrassing. This is still happening 15 years later. I don't know. I guess we feel like if we validate or if we love somebody, that we'll run out of those things. And it probably stems from a sense of emptiness in ourselves. When you love and accept yourself, you don't have any fear of rejection. You don't have any fear of being unloved. You don't have any fear of not getting what you deserve in return. There's no unrequited love when you love yourself. You've already decided that you're worth it. Somebody else loving you or not loving you isn't going to change your worth. Being completely fucked up, and for me, I was so unhealthy that it almost killed me. I had to start loving myself even in that fucked up state. Even when I was, 50 pounds overweight and when I was 20 pounds underweight. I didn't like it myself very much either time, but I had to learn to love and accept myself anyway. Because that's the only way that you care enough to do the things that might help you. And if we can learn to love and accept our country where it's at, even as fucked up as it is, it's mangled and covered with dead weight and scars and cancerous tumors that need to be cut out. Fucking Nazis, I'm talking to you. White supremacy is a cancer. Any kind of supremacy is a cancer. They're simultaneously victims, and yet they're helping others kill. I mean, they're training and spreading seeds of hate. This is cancer. The only way that we can really kill cancer is just another huge problem in our country. What's going on? Our bodies are not healthy enough to fight it off. Our society is not healthy enough to fight off this cancer unless we all come together, and we have to care about each other enough to do that in the first place. Okay, you don't learn to love yourself and say, well, I have a pretty face, but the rest of my body can go to fucking hell. Sorry, you can't survive as a brain in the jar. You can't say to yourself, well, at least I have the body of a supermodel, but I'm such a fucking dumbass. No one will ever love me. No, you have to love yourself. Everybody, we have so many different people, so many different skills and attributes and things that they bring to the table, nobody's lacking when we're all together. We literally have everything we need as long as we come together and are willing to love each other enough to take care of each other and have enough hope that we can survive to actually try some things out, figure out where we're at. Yeah, we may need to lose some weight and get on the treadmill. You know, it's going to take work. Anybody that's ever gotten healthy tells you, and will tell you, it takes work, but that work is easy once you have a reason and once you believe in yourself and believe that you need to try no matter what. It's easier to live with yourself if you attempt something and fail than if you never attempted at all. You can at least say you've tried. And I would like to try to get all of you to try to come together, to care about other people, to be encouraging and validating and loving with anybody that's trying to move forward. All other failures aside, as long as it's not a cancer, don't encourage the cancers, right? Or the leeches. We need all this blood. We need all this spirit and fire and passion to be put to good use. And I think we can do it. I think that everybody watching and everybody listening, I think you are proof that we do care and we do want solutions and we are looking to make ourselves healthy because we love ourselves enough to give it a shot, and we love this country enough to give it a shot, even though it's really fucked up. It's really fucked up and embarrassing and horrible, and it's not fair. No one should be born into this kind of shit, you know, and the shit that we have going on in the third world. No one should be born into that shit either. There is no reason that anybody on this fucking planet needed to be born into this shit. We could have fixed this 50 years ago. We've had the technology. But we need to get rid of the cancer. And you know what? I don't know what social chemotherapy is, but maybe we should all smoke some fucking weed or whatever, eat some good food, get some exercise, and give some people some goddamn hugs and appreciation. Because that is actually what keeps our society together, and that's what keeps us alive, and that is the reason that we do everything we do. Is we're part of a society. Whether you love it or hate it, you wouldn't be trying to kill your society if you weren't so part of it. You know,